Even though it's mainly a comedy show, the amazing world of Gumball really knows how to traumatize us when it wants to. Did you know the show actually has several episodes so dark they really make you wonder how Cartoon Network even allowed them to be made? One of those episodes, which still haunts many fans to this day, is The Joy. It's one of those stories that just keeps getting creepier and creepier with every scene. It all starts with Gumball and Darwin waking up in a terrible mood. Richard notices they're both super grumpy and offers them a special hug that, according to him, holds all the happiness in the world. The boys say no, but Richard hugs them anyway, and that's when things start to get ugly. His hug is so full of love that it causes a colorful explosion, and when we see Gumball and Darwin heading to school, they're acting totally different. Richard wasn't lying, they really did get way happier. The problem is, their happiness level has gone way beyond what's healthy. Somehow, both Gumball and Darwin turn into happiness zombies, and they even start drooling rainbows. It's like they've caught some kind of virus, which actually spreads to others through hugs. You can already imagine what happens next, right? The number of infected keeps growing until the whole school is taken over by cheerful zombies. The only one who stays safe from the virus is Miss Simeon, Gumball's grumpy teacher, because she figures out that playing Beethoven's music makes the infected calm down, at least for a while. But in the end, even she gets caught. The episode doesn't have a happy ending or even a conclusion, and it finishes with Miss Simeon filming herself as she's overtaken by the disease of joy. What's really bizarre is that we have no idea if this episode is actually canon or not. Technically, it shouldn't be because no one else seems to be infected in the episode that comes after. But what if it happens after all the other episodes and is actually the show's true ending? And the craziest part is that it's only one of the 8 darkest episodes of the amazing world of Gumball. So get comfy and buckle up. You're watching another Cinewave. In The Downer, Gumball goes through one of the weirdest experiences anyone could ever imagine. Just like in The Joy, he wakes up in a really terrible mood, but this time, way worse. He's so fed up that in a loud shout, he wishes everyone would just leave him alone so he could be by himself. And guess what? His wish comes true, and Gumball finally gets to be alone, but maybe a little more than he wanted. Every single member of his family, plus everyone else in Elmore, just vanishes from the city without a trace. At first, he takes advantage of it and does whatever he wants without having to answer to anyone. Just picture it, eating junk food or doing a bunch of random stuff just because you can. But after a while, reality hits him, and he realizes he's probably going to spend the rest of his life completely alone in that place. And trust me, the streets of Elmore get seriously creepy when they're totally empty. And as if that wasn't already bad enough, a massive darkness starts swallowing up the entire town until everything is completely taken over by the shadows, and the only thing left is Gumball himself. Thankfully, instead of being trapped in that void for all eternity, he wakes up and realizes he was actually sleepwalking, basically wandering around while still asleep. This episode definitely scared a lot of kids into not wanting to fall asleep. It's not so much about jump scares, but more about the psychological horror. You really can't watch this one without imagining yourself in Gumball's shoes, thinking what it'd be like to live in a world with no one else around. Another super dark episode is The Night, and the reason is pretty simple. In this story, the moon shows us what's going on inside the minds of Elmore's residents while they're sleeping. Some of them have normal or even funny dreams, but others have seriously creepy nightmares. And the creepiest of all is definitely Anais's doll, Daisy. Yep, even she has dreams. In her mind, Anais is actually her stuffed animal, and Daisy tortures Anais in all sorts of twisted ways, one more sadistic than the next. The worst part is, right after, the doll wakes up and speaks with that same terrifying look she had in the dream, which means she's actually alive and could try something against the Watterson family at any moment. Another spooky dream comes from Alan the Balloon, and this one's so weird it's hard to even explain. There are tons of super quick scenes, like rotting fruit, a clown tying a balloon, a hand with an eye in its palm, nails scratching a chalkboard. It feels like some kind of unsolvable riddle, and yet Alan sleeps through it all, calm as can be. What's even going on with him? Hector the Giant's dream isn't really that scary. He just dreams that he's not a giant anymore, which makes him super happy because he can finally do normal-sized people things. But the dark part is that in real life, he's moving around in his sleep and destroying a good chunk of the city without even noticing. If you also love Gumball's creepy episodes, drop a comment down below with #dark. The Signal is basically a horror show. In this episode, Gumball starts noticing that a bunch of weird things are happening, like reality itself is full of glitches, freezes, characters turning into creepy shapes and then snapping back to normal like they came straight out of a creepypasta, until it gets to the point where Gumball and Darwin even get teleported to different points in time. In the end, they figure out the reason this is all happening is because they're characters in a TV show and the channel is having a transmission issue. Yep, you heard that right. The episode totally breaks the fourth wall, or more like completely smashes it to pieces. Imagine deciding to play with some puppets, only to realize they're actually the ones playing with you. That's exactly what happens in The Puppets, where Darwin starts doing ventriloquism with two puppets, but somehow he ends up getting tricked by them into promising he'll never take them off, which doesn't really make much sense since Darwin is the one controlling everything they say, or at least that's what you'd think at the beginning of the episode. The little fish takes that promise seriously and won't let go of the puppets, not even when it's time to eat. In fact, later on, he even takes a bath with them. After Gumball gets attacked by the puppets, he throws them both in the trash. But then both puppets climb out of the trash in the middle of the night and start talking all on their own. Yep, they were alive the whole time, and it gets even weirder from there, because they kidnap Darwin and drag him off to the puppet dimension. Gumball goes after him, and the two of them are nearly turned into the puppets' eternal slaves until they realize they can control the dimension with their imagination. Thanks to that, they manage to blow everything up and get back home. If you stop to think about it, Nicole is an amazing mom, and she's got every right to feel a little stressed from working so much, but she's definitely snapped a few times. In The Limit, things get seriously out of hand after her kids keep whining for her to buy them candy. Nicole just totally loses it, turning into a full-on horror movie monster and then tries to attack her own family. Honestly, it's scarier than a lot of actual horror films. The good news is, in the end, she catches a glimpse of herself in a reflection and realizes what she's become. That snaps her back to normal before she ends up destroying her own family. She definitely learned her lesson, but that's not the case for Gumball, Darwin, and Anais. Since they helped defeat her, a store clerk sneakily gave all three of them some candy. Talk about nerve, right? It kinda makes you hope Nicole snaps again. If Nicole were watching our videos, she'd be way too entertained to feel stressed out. And you, how about hitting that subscribe button so you never miss our videos about your favorite cartoons? But this wasn't the only time Gumball and Darwin almost ended up with a terrible fate because they got too greedy. In The Scam, they team up with Carrie to pull off a Halloween scheme that goes like this. Carrie creates all kinds of spooky supernatural events, and Gumball and Darwin convince their classmates that it's happening because the school is haunted by a monster called Gargaroth. Then, they pretend they're busting the ghosts like they're in Ghostbusters, and in return people give them candy, which they split with Carrie afterward. So basically, all three of them come out winning. That is, until the real Gargaroth shows up and starts attacking the school. They throw all the candy they collected at him, hoping it'll satisfy his hunger, but it's not even close to enough. Carrie even comes this close to marrying Gargaroth just to get him to stop attacking everyone. But Gumball ends up throwing their very last piece of candy at him, and it blows him up. What makes this episode especially terrifying is how Gargaroth looks. He's so gross and hideous that he's way scarier than a lot of famous monsters in fiction. Have you ever seen one of those chain messages that say something like, "Share this so you'll have 7 years of bad luck"? Yeah, that's usually total nonsense, but in the mirror, Gumball gets a message just like that, and this time, when he doesn't take it seriously, he finds out it's actually real. Because of it, a ghost starts haunting him and doing all sorts of creepy stuff. At first, the ghost just steals Gumball's money, but then Richard, Nicole, and Anais end up getting kidnapped by the haunting spirit. But luckily, Carrie, who as it turns out is actually the ghost's daughter, helps them break the curse and return her father back to normal. The episode is definitely creepy, but at least the ending is kinda sweet, except for the part when he comes back to life after the curse is lifted, only to accidentally fall off the roof of the Watterson house and turn into a ghost all over again. We've got some awesome videos lined up on your screen, so just click on one of them to keep having fun. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.